everyone, welcome. Okay, so we're going to be covering a subject that I think a lot of people have an interest in, especially those who are single. I would advise that if you are also a married person, this is still an important um, area to continue to grow and develop in terms of your understanding of God's order and what the calling is of two becoming one. But I want to start a bit with like a testimony for the sake of also kind of sharing a bit of like my perspective coming into the church and seeing just a lot of, I would say, very much the idolatry that takes place around marriage and how I bought in and how I kind of was able to eventually exit from that space. So to start, for those of you who don't know my testimony, I will plug it at the top, but I did not grow up in the church, grew up more in a framework of a Middle Eastern Muslim kind of context. And so marriage was a fairly common subject, but I was not a person who necessarily followed what I was instructed to as a kid, kind of departed from the Islamic faith and took my own path to eventually finding Christianity. But prior to that, I did what culture did. I dated, I slept around, I did the things that you apparently are supposed to do according to the world standard, right? Like it's supposed to be some form of like emancipation for women, right? Like we can just be like men, right? And truthfully, there is no freedom but there's actually very much bondage. So coming to Christ, I definitely had a lot of those constraints in my mind around marriage. Now, I was, again, like most people in culture, I didn't really see that the importance of marriage. Like, who cares? Like, what does it matter if you get a paper? What does it matter if you, declare it before people? Like, you could just cohabitate. Who cares? I had that very much that mentality too. I never really thought too much about like, I have to get married. This needs to happen for me. So I came to the church and they said, okay, well, the only way you can have sex is if you get married. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, so like I have to. And it was like, okay, I guess then, sure. All right, no problem. I guess I'll agree to this. And very quickly, the Lord took me into doing a lot of reading about what marriage is as a Christian. So some books like the five love languages, that is a fairly common one, but also things like what I didn't know about marriage, that I wish I did, like Four Seasons of Marriage. I started reading more about it and I started to realize, okay, this is not like taking the world system and putting it into a marriage system. This very much is a very different process than what I understood about marriage prior. And so the Lord took me, many instances reading scriptures to understand what it was. And with time, I think it really kind of killed the desire to some degree, like where I was like, well, I mean, it sounds really hard. And my Christian walk's pretty rough as it is. Like, I'm like, I don't know if that sounds like the thing for me. So I kind of like vacillated back and forth until I really feel like God delivered me from even just like this preoccupation, thoughts, feelings. But I watched a lot of idolatry take place about marriage as well in terms of like more Christian culture. Like there's a really big push and selling about women being ready for marriage, which I'm going to plug another video that I did a few years ago. The lie that's essentially sold to women about being prepared for marriage. But yeah, there was a lot of selling to women that being prepared for marriage. It didn't seem like a lot of things were really tailored to men. I'm not sure if it's just like men wouldn't have bought into it and women are very vulnerable in this space. So a lot of material is catered to showing women how to secure a man, find a man, keep a man, etc. And truthfully, I think as time has gone on and the more I have grown in my understanding and my faith, the more I've been discipled, the more I've studied scripture, the more I've come to a place of saying, when we don't prioritize abiding in the Lord and having a grounded relationship in Him, the concept of marriage, even as a Christian, can sound good. But if it's going to test everything about you that you hold dear, and even areas that are still in need of help and growth and development, the best way that you are going to be able to embark on that journey is going to be deeply rooted in your relationship with Christ. And that is the conclusion and standing point that I'm going to take in this video, which is regardless whether you get married or you do not, regardless which category you are or you end up in. And even for those who end up being separated from their spouse later on, I'm going to plug another video I did about being divorced, so you can also watch that as well. But ultimately, the calling of the Christian is not just to be a good husband or wife, but it's to be a disciple, right? It's to be a child of God, right? And so the more deeply rooted we are in our faith, in our understanding, and our practice, now and in that area, the better we're going to have a foundation to endure whatever it is the Lord wills to bring into our life. So I really want to broaden it, right? Which is that a lot of the preparation can be quite, like the selling of the preparation can be quite superficial, right? You're going to be a good wife if you're feminine. You're going to be a good husband if you're masculine. You're going to be a good wife if you dress in a particular way, or your career is in a particular standing, or you have date night with Jesus. I've heard all of it. And I would dispute it and say, no, in fact, the greatest thing that we can have in our life is going to be having a strong foundation in our faith. And so no matter what we end up with, no matter what our lot in life is, we are rooted in the most important relationship. And I will say, I have seen people who I could tell were wavering in areas, and I've seen them crash and burn, and they got what they wanted. So I don't say this lightly, and my heart genuinely aches for those people, but I'm going to say I don't believe that marriage is a simple and easy process. And I think the best thing we can do for us long term is to just continue to grow in our development and intimacy with the Lord so that you can endure whatever comes your way. I know I might be really emphasizing the same point a few times, but I really want that to be at the focal point, because I've seen also on the flip side, people who you can tell have a very strong relationship with the Lord, and their marriage is beautiful.